morning and welcome to Mornings on Main Street for this Monday, March 20th. I'm your host, Stefanie Miller. Hope you guys were able to have a fun and enjoyable weekend while also getting a little bit of rest. Coming up today on the show, we have our government reporter, Vivian Jones. She goes over the bills and legislation that are up for a vote today. She'll be with us in a few short minutes. After that, in our Let's Eat segment, Catherine Mayhew shares with us a innovative, fun, and easygoing restaurant in Nashville. It also happens to be one of Nashville's hottest restaurants right now. Stick with us for her segment, but first, let's get a check of those headlines. Have you seen this man? The Metro Nashville Police Department says Gary Burchett is named in a homicide that happened Thursday night at a condominium at 550 Harding Place. Burchett is believed to be traveling in a white Ford F-250 Super Cab pickup truck with a Tennessee license plate of 088BGSQ. If you see this truck, you're asked to call Crime Stoppers. Read more by going to mainstreetnashville.com. And then this Gallatin man, Salvador Sandoval, could spend the rest of his life in prison with no chance of parole after being found guilty earlier this month of sexually abusing two young girls. Both girls were under the age of 11. Sandoval is scheduled to be sentenced May 25th. You can follow this story by visiting GallatinNews.com. Tennessee's first neighborhood hospital opened its doors this morning at 5127 Veterans Parkway in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. It's a 32,000 square foot hospital, has 8 inpatient beds and 8 emergency room beds. And the ER is staffed with physicians who will serve patients 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Learn more about this hospital and what it offers by going to murfreesboropost.com. The hospital is named West Lawn Hospital, and again, it opened at 7 a.m. this morning. Time now for a look at today's weather from Tennessee Valley Weather.
This weekend has been pretty nice, all things considered, in all ways but one, at least if you ask me, and that was because it was terribly cold out there. Yesterday, we were looking at highs in the lower 40s. Today will be a little bit better, though. We're beginning this warming trend, at least in earnest here. The wind is coming out of the south now. We'll call highs today in the lower 50s, at least for the time being. It looks like we're only warming up as we head over the next few days due to the fact that we are pulling that warm moisture out of the Gulf of Mexico and putting it square into the Tennessee Valley. Now, of course, that moisture does come at the cost of some cloud cover by Tuesday and into Wednesday, and of course, the chance of showers, maybe even a scattered storm here or there by about midweek, especially through Tuesday night and into Wednesday. But I think the temperatures will more than make up for it as we head into the midweek. Let me show you the 7-day forecast so you can see exactly what I'm talking about. Check it out by Thursday. We're flirting with 80 there for highs there, and behind it, of course, we do have that chance of scattered showers and storms. We're watching this system in particular for the chance of maybe some scattered showers and maybe a strong storm here or there. But behind it, it looks like we really start to kick off into spring once more. Thanks for watching this forecast update. I'll leave us a look at your 7-day forecast. God bless.
Hockey in Music City just hits different. It's one big honky-tonk party. It's the sea of gold in the crowd, the goals, the saves, the celebrations. It's an experience like no other. Experience Predators hockey all season long. Visit NashvillePredators.com/season tickets and join the Loyal Legion today. That's NashvillePredators.com/tickets, and we'll see you at Bridgestone Arena.
It's just a few cocktails at happy hour.
It was just a few cocktails at happy hour.
You really good drive.
There aren't any cops around.
I didn't think there were any cops around.
I drink and drive all the time.
Sir, you've been in a serious crash. I need you to hang on, okay? Cover your hands, sir. Where you are right now?
Main Street Sports Today strives to bring you the most timely and comprehensive coverage of sports news and more from Middle Tennessee and beyond.
We cover the teams you care about from preps to pros and bring some of the most influential voices in sports to keep you in the know.
Tune into Main Street Sports Today each Monday through Friday at 2 p.m. Download the Main Street Media TV app.
On this Monday morning, we are kicking off with checking in with our government reporter, Vivian Jones. You can find all of her articles at Main Street Nashville. Today, we're kind of highlighting the bills that are coming up for a vote tonight and many other items. Vivian, always a pleasure. Good morning to you.
Good morning. Well, yeah, as we head into the last, hopefully 4 or 5 weeks of the legislative session, we're expecting a couple of big votes tonight in the House. First up, a vote on the governor's $3.3 billion roads deal. This would be, it's called the Transportation Modernization Act, and it comes from the gas tax that the state uses to fund road projects is not keeping up with unfunded road projects that the state needs to work on. Right now, we have about $26 billion worth of projects that need work. And so the bill would permit the state to work with private companies, contract out building those roads, building additional lanes that would go alongside existing lanes. That would be then managed by those private companies, that users would be able to pay, or drivers would be able to pay a fee or a toll or a user fee or however you want to say that, but to use those lanes to kind of divert around traffic. So we see those in several other states. I know Texas has them, Florida, Georgia, Virginia. So it's a model that's used by other states already. And it would allow the state to build new lanes and help address some congestion problems, and also help make up for those deficiencies in the gas tax that are not helping, that are not no longer fully funding the road projects. So there's some criticism saying that it would essentially privatize roads in a way, but the state would remain in ownership of the new lanes that are built, and none of the lanes that are currently existing would then have a toll to use them. Every road that exists currently would, according to the proponents of the bill, would continue to be a non-user fee lane. So any additional lanes would have a fee. Those that are remaining right now would not. They would remain as they are. We don't know how much they would cost. We don't know where they would be yet. This is kind of just the beginning step of saying TDOT can look into it and do the studies and plan it out. And so we don't know a lot of the details, but that's up for a vote on the House floor tonight.
Okay, so on that, so we can either choose to use that and pay to use that particular lane, or we can choose not to and not have to, I guess, worry about making to pay for that.
Yes. The administration is calling them choice lanes.
Choice lanes. I like that. Okay, what's next?
Yeah. Another big vote up on the House floor tonight is a change to the state's abortion ban. This would make very, very narrow exceptions to the existing law that went into effect right after the Supreme Court overturned Roe versus Wade last year. Mm-hmm. And so right now the state has one of the strictest abortion bans in the country. Right now, there are no abortions allowed at any point for any reason, no exceptions for rape, no exceptions for incest, and no exceptions for life of the mother. There is a legal defense that doctors can use if they are prosecuted for criminal abortion, to say that it was justified because the woman's life needed to be saved. Essentially, this bill would make exceptions specifically for ectopic and molar pregnancies, and it would define those specific instances as not criminal abortion. The bill, as it stands right now, does not include exceptions for rape or incest, and it gives doctors what's called reasonable judgment. There was a push for whether or not there was a subjective or objective standard of how we measure how much medical judgment doctors can use in these particular situations. But essentially, it would very narrowly define when a doctor could do these things without fear of criminal prosecution. So. Okay. Proponents of the bill, the lobbyists for Tennessee Right to Life, have said that doctors can still be prosecuted under the law as it would be written if passed tonight. So there's a lot of controversy about that, but it is a step, a very narrow step toward making the exception to the abortion law just a little bit more clear.
Okay. And then what do we have this morning on the third grade retention bill?
Yeah, so looking forward a little bit. So back in 2021, the legislature passed a law, and this was during the special session that was designed to address some of the learning loss during school closures during the COVID pandemic. But the legislature passed a law that would require anyone, third graders, who do not score either meets or exceeds expectations on the state TCAP test in the spring, that they would have to repeat the grade, be retained in third grade. They could, to avoid repeating the grade, they could go to tutoring or they could go to summer school. And so there's been a lot of feedback from teachers and parents and schools that say essentially that requirement puts a lot on one day, one test for a third grader. That's just a really high stakes situation. And so there's been a lot about changes that they can make to that law to relieve some of that pressure and also just kind of streamline the system that was passed back in 2021. So last week we saw kind of for the first time a framework for changing those things. This would add in addition to the TCAP, it would take into consideration the last benchmark test that is administered in third grade that year. So students who score 50% or higher on that benchmark test, and then also the next level down on the TCAP, so it's approaching standards. It's not meets or exceeds expectations, but approaching expectations. If you both score 50% or higher on the benchmark, and then you also score approaching or higher on the TCAP, you would not be retained. You could move on as long as you have some tutoring the next year in fourth grade.
Okay.
So that kind of relieves the one test, 1 year pressure on that. Right now there's two different versions of the bill in the House and the Senate. It would also allow, right now parents are the only people that can really manage appeals. If your student is retained and you think it's not right, so you can file an appeal with the Department of Education and sort of work that process. But a lot of parents might not feel comfortable with handling all that bureaucracy. I know that I still learn some things every day about how the government bureaucracy works. So it would essentially allow that schools and school districts can help parents with those appeals. And it would also require and fund tutors for any retained third graders so that they can have that extra support if they do have to repeat the grade. So it's early stages with that bill right now, but it would definitely be a big change and one that's been talked about a lot for the third grade retention law.
We look forward to hearing the update on that. Anything else that we need to keep an eye out for or look for upcoming articles from you?
Yeah, just a couple quick hits for you. So there's a bill out there that would dissolve the Tennessee Commission on Children and Youth. That's kind of an independent oversight board that deals with lots of different agencies, state agencies that touch or that deal with children and children's services, including DCS. And so that has met a lot of pushback. It's notable that in January, the commission released a report that wasn't super favorable to DCS. And so now we're seeing a bill that would dissolve the commission entirely. It wouldn't necessarily do away with all the work that the commission does, but it would move it to different agencies, essentially partially putting some accountability measures for DCS within DCS, so it would be accountable for itself. Anyway, it would be a shift for sure. That's just something to watch. It's early stages on that bill as well. There's a bill that would propose a task force to explore how the state could go about rejecting federal education funds. Right now, the state receives about $1.8 billion every year from the federal government to support programs primarily for disabled and impoverished children. And proponents of that bill, it's backed by House Speaker Cameron Sachs today, that federal money always comes with strings attached. So if we reject it, we'll be more independent from the federal government. But then they're also saying that we, as the state, would step in and cover that $1.8 billion in federal funds with state funds. Critics say that would mean that we're paying twice for that because we all pay federal taxes, and then we'd have to make up for that rejection with state tax revenue. So that's early stages as well, but it would be a really, really significant change. We'd also be the first state to consider such a thing if that does move forward. And then one last thing I'm watching, and it's not going on right now, but this would be the bill to dissolve and constitute the Metro Airport Authority. That did move forward again last week. And right now it's changed a little. Right now, the mayor of Nashville appoints all 7 members of that airport authority. The bill as it stands right now is amended. It's changed to 8 members, and there would be 2 appointments each from the mayor, the governor, and the House and the Senate speakers. So the majority, 75%, would still be appointed by state officials, but we did give the mayor some, at first it was going to be, the mayor was going to be a non-voting member of that board and could sit on it, but wouldn't be able to have any power. And now we're actually giving 2 on that board, pointing power to the mayor of Nashville. So it was a little bit of a concession there, but we're still working out the details on that one.
Well, we'll keep an eye out for all of your articles. Once again, everyone, Vivian Jones, you can find her weekly articles that she updates regularly at mainstreetnashville.com. Vivian, always a pleasure. Hope you have a wonderful rest of the day.
Thanks so much.
Anytime. All right, stick with us here on Mornings on Main Street. We have more coming up after this break.
Welcome to the Omni Nashville Hotel. Urban elegance with a vintage touch. Our 800-room hotel opened up in the fall of 2013 with 746 guest rooms and 54 suites.
Welcome back to Mornings on Main Street. There is one very hot restaurant in Nashville, Tennessee right now, getting a lot of fantastic reviews. The seats are coveted. It seems they're always on a wait list, or there's a wait list that you have to get on. But guess who got in there? Guess who was able to try all the, or a lot of the dishes at Locust? You know who got in. Catherine Mayhew. She was able to go. She was able to try all the fantastic food. She's going to share with us not only the food, but the chef as well, and what we can expect if we ever get a chance to go. Catherine, good to see you again.
Good to see you too.
All right, Locust, how was it? Again, coveted seats in this place.
You know, we're so lucky in Nashville for a number of reasons. But one of them is Trevor Moran decided to live here. He is the chef owner of Locust. He was the chef at Catbird Seat, also in Nashville. And before that, he was a chef at Noma in Copenhagen, which is considered, or was considered, the best restaurant in the world.
Wow.
And the reason I say was is the owner, Rene Redzepi, has decided to close it because he doesn't think fine dining can sustain itself anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason this connects back to Nashville is Trevor Moran figured that out too. So Locust food is fine dining, but your experience is like going into somebody's house.
Really?
It is so amazingly hospitable. When you walk into Locust, and it's only about 10 tables, all the chefs in the open kitchen stop what they're doing, look at you and say, welcome. I know. So you're already feeling really good about yourself before you even look at the menu. And he wanted to do it this way because he wanted to have a work-life balance. He wanted his chefs to have a work-life balance. So they're only open 3 days a week for limited hours. And you cannot look at a menu beforehand. God forbid you ever ask for a substitution. Don't do it. But you don't need to do substitutions because everything on the menu is just spectacular.
Well, what did you have? What did you guys enjoy?
Well, we enjoyed everything. We had 6 courses, and it was all magnificent. But we started out with razor clams, and they're literally a clam that's very long and it looks like a razor. And what they do is they freeze them for 3 days, and that makes them incredibly tender. And then they serve it with a kelp oil, kelp is a seaweed. And I tell you what, the first time I ate one, my husband was with me. We looked at each other and our eyes almost popped out because they were the best clams easily I have ever had. And then the next thing we had was a steak tartare. But they don't do it in the traditional way with toast points and an egg yolk on top. Can you tell I'm stuttering because I'm so astonished with this place? They bring the tartare out in a separate container and they flavor it with horseradish oil, which just gives it this amazing punch. It's a little spicy. It's not terribly hot. And they serve it with a rice flavored with a milk sauce. And then they serve it with freeze-dried capers and nori, sheets of seaweed. And you're supposed to make your own hand rolls with this. And it's just the combination of the flavored rice and the tartare with the horseradish and those capers that really pop in your mouth because they've been freeze-dried. It was amazing.
Definitely
and
good courses. What else do you
next
have?
we have lamb dumplings. They're
Okay.
famous for their dumplings. Locust started as a pop-up during the pandemic, making dumplings and noodles. And they make their dumpling dough, obviously. It's extremely thin. And then they change out the flavorings. We had it with a lamb and a kind of seaweed, crispy seaweed that grows in the North Atlantic. And I'm guessing the reason that Trevor Moran went to that is because he's from Ireland. So it's something they would have over there. And a wonderful foam, just, and then we had the sole, which, lights out. It came with a mussel foam, which sounds odd to have one fish with another shellfish foam, but it's just amazing. And they serve it with it's a pave, which just means very thinly layered something. In this case, it's a pave of potatoes and celery root, topped with, wait for it, black truffles and foie gras. Hello.
Oh, that sounds incredible.
I know. This place makes you speechless. It really does. I cannot tell you how much I gushed at every single person. They have waiters that will start you off with a glass of wine or a beer or whatever. But the real waiters are the chefs, because they bring the dish that they made. So, and they will sit there and talk to you for as long as you want about what's in the dish, how they came up with it, or how Trevor came up with it. So it's an incredible experience of being really intimate with your food, and not only knowing who made it, but getting to talk to them and getting to watch them in the kitchen. And then at the very end, although I was trying to find a place to hide so I wouldn't have to leave, as you're getting up to leave, they all stop what they're doing again and say, goodbye, thank you so much for coming. I mean, it's incredible.
It sounds, again, and just talk about probably the most elevated dining experience I have ever heard of.
It's extremely elevated, but all the chefs they're not in chef's whites, they're in t-shirts. It's not a place you have to dress up to get into. In fact, I didn't see anybody dressed up in there. So you can walk in a pair of shorts and a t-shirt and feel right at home and sit down and have the most elegant meal of your life. So I think that juxtaposition is just so interesting, because a lot of people think fine dining is dying, and he's found a way to make it enjoyable, actually enjoyable, not pretentious, just super enjoyable. I mean, it is an amazing place, and we are unbelievably lucky. It was voted the best restaurant in the U.S. by Food and Wine last year.
Oh, okay. Yeah, and just to make sure everyone's hearing what she just said, voted the best restaurant in the U.S. last year, the best.
Yes,
and we have it here in Nashville.
We have it here in Nashville. It's in 12 South. Like, go to their website. They have a phone, but they don't answer the phone. You can text them, but the only way to make a reservation is to make it online. They open up at the first of every month, and when they're gone, which is in about 2 minutes, they're gone for the whole month.
And I was going to say, I wish I could show my phone right now, because again, looking at the wait list, you can, pick the night or the time that you want to go and get on that wait list, which I'm trying to do now.
Well, I would encourage everybody. It's an expensive meal. I'm not going to lie about that. It's a very expensive meal. It's a treat.
Yeah.
Because everything is sort of shared small plates. And once you have one thing, you're going to want, everything. So just be aware that your wallet's going to hurt a little bit at the end of it. But it's such a remarkable, unusual experience that I think it's well worth the little bit of cash it's going to take you to get there.
I do have one question, and I know that you said you can't really switch out anything. What if you have a person with some sort of allergy? So like a shellfish allergy.
Okay. So if you get a reservation, they will send you a confirmation in your email, and they will ask at that time, do you have guests with any special accommodations? Because they're more than willing to accommodate allergies, food preferences, religious food, dietary restrictions, all that stuff. You just need to tell them. And they ask you literally at the time you make the reservation, so that they can prepare for whatever special requests are out there. Okay. So if you have an allergy, don't worry, they'll deal with it. and you'll get a very specific way of telling them exactly what it is.
Fantastic. Catherine, thank you for sharing Locust with all of us. Hopefully we all have a chance to go and experience this as well. If you would like to check out all of Catherine's articles, you can do that. You can just head to mainstreetnashville.com and find the places where she has visited and dined. And then we can also find her on Facebook and on Instagram. Is that right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Anytime. I'm at the South in My Mouth on Instagram and just my name on Facebook.
Awesome, Catherine. Thank you so much. Always enjoy our Mondays. Have a wonderful rest of the day.
You have a wonderful day too.
Thank you. See you later. All right, stick with us here on Mornings on Main Street. We have more coming up for you after this.
There's a lot to consider when it comes to choosing a Medicare plan. That's where Health Markets Insurance Agency can help. Independent licensed insurance agents who work with Health Markets can answer your questions about the different parts of Medicare, when you can enroll, benefits, costs, and more. Speak to a local licensed insurance agent today to get started on your Medicare journey.
Hi, I'm Stefanie Miller from Mornings on Main Street. Join us March 23rd at Bridgestone Arena with the Nashville Predators for Main Street Media Night. I know Devin O'Day will be here.
You know I will be, Stephanie. Plus, you can register for a Predators prize pack. They were going to call it the Hockey Hootenanny, but they changed. So it's going to have 4 tickets and food vouchers. You got to register to win.
We're looking forward to seeing all of our Main Street Sports Today fans, right, Chris?
Absolutely, we are. And we could not do this without, of course, our owner, Dave Gould, and our friends here at Smashville.
Speaking of,
where is Dave?
We will see you March 23rd for Main Street Media Night. Let's go, Prince!
Do I have the wrong night?
So today, I did not mention it earlier, but I'm sure you already know, it is the first day of spring. It's a day that I look forward to every year. I love sometimes the warmer weather. I say that though I do love fall, and that happens to be my favorite season. But nonetheless, after some cold days, it is always nice to see the first day of spring. So here's an interesting fact that I found at the Farmer's Almanac this morning. Equinoxes are the only 2 times each year that the sun rises due east and sets due west for all of us here on Earth. Now, while the sun passes overhead, the tilt of the Earth is 0 relative to the sun, which means that the Earth's axis neither points toward nor away from the sun. I don't know. I find that interesting and just wanted to share it with you here this morning. I do hope you enjoy the first day of the new season and the work week. Be sure to join us again tomorrow on Tuesday. But until then, have a great rest of the day.